all, I'm going to talk about mixing greens. I've done a little bit on this when we talked about colour mixing, but you see I've got lots of crosses here, what you shouldn't do. And you'll understand that from what I said yesterday. It's all to do with making your paints transparent, your colours transparent. So if you use any of these colours, they are not transparent. And the French ultramarine, it's semi-transparent, but it's verging on the purple. And you know from your colour theory, if you mix purple with yellow, you are neutralising the colour, because you're effectively mixing all three primary colours, because purple is a mixture of blue and red. So because it is verging towards purple, it means that if you mix it with a yellow, you will get a muddy colour. So it's trying to keep your colours fresh using both transparent colours and also your colour theory. Everything's in the book, all the stuff about mixing greens, mixing colours, everything else, available in the bookshop if you so wish, but otherwise there's a copy there. You're welcome to have a look at it. So mixing greens, obviously with flower painting you're always going to have to mix greens, also with landscape painting. So yeah, just a bit of thought behind this. So some mixers. Use these colours, lemon yellow, Prussian blue, which you haven't got. I can give you a bit if you'd like some, but also you can use your cerulean blue, which is a sort of turquoisey blue, a greenish blue. And viridian green is a brilliant colour, very, very strong, very artificial. It looks fine on its own in seas, but obviously as a tree colour, it's going to look a bit strange. Tree or leaves, you know, they're not likely going to be that colour. Unless you want them to be, you're an artist, you can make them any colour you like. But if you want a more natural colour, just add a touch of burnt sienna to it, and you will then get a lovely natural olivey type green. Ooh, I managed to pick up a bit of crimson as well there. So that's gone grey because I've added the crimson. Let's try again. Viridian burnt sienna. There we go. So that gives you a lovely dark green, very, very fresh, very transparent. I'll talk a bit more about mixing greys tomorrow, but yeah, it neutralises the green, gives you a beautiful grey. And both viridian and alizarin are transparent too, so that will really help. So yeah, for light greens, I always start off with lemon yellow, and I'll often just start trees with this, especially if it's in the spring. It's really good for a tree colour, and then you can just add some of your viridian at the side. Mix those together. Bit of burnt sienna too. It's quite interesting. It is very brown. So let's add a bit of green to that. So you can get some nice colours mixing. The lemon yellow, you can mix it with viridian to get a really bright spring green. I have two pans of lemon here, so I can use one for mixing and the other one if I just want it sort of fresh yellow. So that is lemon yellow and viridian. Lemon yellow and Prussian, or you would probably use your cerulean blue. Oh, go away.
Your attention please, Captain speaking from the bridge. For exercise, crew alert signal is about to be sounded.
Bit of Prussian
for
blue
purposes only.
and lemon
All
yellow.
crew proceed to their emergency duty stations. All crew proceed to their emergency duty stations. For exercise purposes
More
only.
lemon if you want it.
Incident type fire, cabin 524.
So you've got quite a range of greens there, haven't you? If you want a really strong dark one, just lots of viridian,
Zone 9 for exercise purposes only.
because that is a good strong colour. It's a little bit distracting, isn't it? Right, let's see how dark we can get it. There, look at that. That's just viridian and burnt sienna. So you've really got all the range of greens you need there. So yeah, I worry about using your sap green or any other pre-mixed greens. You don't need them. You might as well use what you've got and just keep it nice and simple. So I just don't know what they put in sap green. I'm very suspicious of it. It's an ultra-processed colour. So then the challenge is, if I want to paint a flower, how to avoid everything going green. So always try and keep the palette clean, if you can. I should officially change the water. Do you mind if I pinch your water? I will replenish it afterwards. Because yes, if you use green water, obviously it's going to mess up all your colours. And you see how I've now got green in my lemon yellow, but you know, that's all right because I've got another one. So, setting about painting a flower, as you see I've drawn it out. Here's one I did earlier where I made a start, but I often start off doing the background. And I know a lot of people would look at a flower and just sort of paint the flower, and then and I often say, well, what are you going to do with the background? Oh, I'll think about that later. But actually it's the background that's really important, because if you look at this, you see how bright the flower looks, but that's because it's got a very strong background. So you're thinking about the whole painting, not just the flower. You're thinking about how everything reacts to everything else. And in a watercolour, it's hard to make it that dark, and also it might just look a bit too heavy. So what I tend to do is use the colour theory again to try and get the background sort of using the opposite colours in the colour spectrum and in the colour wheel to get the thought of this, just to get the brightness of the flower. So I'm sort of manipulating the background to make the flower brighter, basically. So that's what I've done there. I tend to start off with a real mess, so I'll show you. And I've gone into the green. Look at that. Go away. I don't want green. So I might put some colour in for the flower to start with. So I'm looking at that colour, that yellow. It's not lemon and it's not cadmium, it's sort of a mixture between, so I'm going to do a mixture. Luckily I did keep some lemon that wasn't green. So I'll mix the cadmium yellow and the lemon, which gives me a really nice colour. You'll see I don't always wash my brush between picking up another colour, but I'm very careful if it's a blue or something to wash it. It's just trying to keep your colours clean. So lots of water, lots of paint. So I'm just going to put some of this in. Do a bit more water. That's yellow around the edge, isn't it? This is yellow here, a bit here. So you see I'm not being particularly careful. That's yellow around the edge too. Now I'm going to put some of the reds in while it's wet. But this won't be the finished flower, this is just the start. So I'm going to mix, again I'm going to mix the cadmium red with the crimson, just to get that sort of rich red. And that goes around like that. There's a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and quite a bit there. Then I'll just get some water and blend it a bit. So this is just the underpainting. I will be painting all on top of this, like I did here. You can see it's all just sort of very, very vague to start with. I always start off with a real mess, and I'll tell you, that is the way to enjoy watercolour. Make a mess with it. Look at that, isn't that wonderful? Then see what it does. I'll just get another brush out, a couple of brushes. So yeah, now I'll put some background in. I'll put in some greens. I might as well use the green water for the greens, mustn't I? Lemon yellow, a bit of Prussian blue. I'm not going over it, do you notice? I'm just doing strokes of colour, replenishing the colour when it starts to run out. This is all quite green.
Very good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your Captain Asim Hashmi speaking from the bridge. This announcement is for the advice of all guests. As you will have heard, the ship's company are presently being exercised in their emergency duties. No action is required from our guests. If you do find rest that from now on until the end of the exercise, do not use the open promenade deck, which is closed already due to the wind. This exercise is taking the form of a simulated,
there's some bits of burnt sienna
fire in the
there.
guest
I'm going
cabin,
to put those
deck
in.
5 aft. The ship's emergency teams are presently
lovely bit
mustering
down there.
and will shortly be entering
Okay.
the area to conduct their incident response.
And then a lot of this is burnt sienna. I'm going to use a bigger brush. That's a lovely colour, isn't it? Look at that.
We'll make the broadcast, and I thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind cooperation.
I'm going to use my blues to get an interesting background. Ultramarine,
Oh dear.
a bit Prussian.
Big
Bit of a drip there, but don't worry about it.
Now I'm panicking about that.
You won't be painting vertically, so you're less likely to get We're panicking about that, we'll just deal with it. This is where the tissues come in. Did they ever bring us some more?
Yes.
Oh good. So you see, damp brush. Quite like what it's doing there, I'm going to leave that. So I'll put some nice strong dark in here. And then there's sort of marks like this, and then there's a really strong one down there. So I'm just trying to encourage you to have some fun with the paint and not worry about it. Which is where you see how you've got that lovely edge there now. Yeah, it's quite dark down here, isn't it? So let's get some dark down here. So this is mainly Prussian blue.
Thank you.
But you can use a mixture of Viridian and Cerulean. Try that. Or if you want some Prussian, I'll give you some. So I often just use Prussian blue. Let the colours blend on the page, and you get some really nice effects. Starting to come together a bit, and as it's drying I will, when it gets to a stage where I can't do any more, I'll just stop. Yeah, some strong dark down here, isn't there? I take photos very carefully, and I always use my own photos, and so I know exactly what I'm looking for when I take the photo, and I'm looking for shapes, composition, tones, all that sort of thing. And then it's lighter down there, a bit more of the burnt sienna, which is, let's get a burnt sienna brush. It's nice. I do like a bit of colour, as you might have noticed. So yeah, I've made a lovely mess here, and then what I would do would be fiddle around with it a bit, just sort of softening off some edges, creating some shapes. But my main aim at the beginning is to cover the white of the paper, so then you can see your tones, you can see what you've got, what you need, and then it gives you something to work with. Touch of the burnt sienna down here, that's the stalk. That's going to be a lot darker, but you don't need to do all your darks at the moment. I'll try and do some of them just to get an idea. So that's a start with that. So what I really like is that I've got that edge there. To me, that's what's the most important. If I want to create any more edges, I can do later. But you don't want all the edges hard, because otherwise it'll look as though you've sort of cut your flower out and stuck it on the paper. So that's another quite complicated thing with watercolour, just controlling your edges. But I would probably stop there. And some, when I go to it next, I would probably wash some bits out if I didn't like them, and then I would start to add some stronger bits. And this is one I started earlier. in true Blue Peter fashion. Americans won't understand that. And I was a great fan of Blue Peter. I don't know whether it still exists, does it?
It does.
Yeah, it does.
But not on the main channels anymore. You know, it used to be what you did at 5 o'clock every day. So yeah, then if I maybe start on one like this, this is one that I did for a demo and never completed. So then I would start working into it to get a bit more definition in the flower. When I'm doing this stage, and sometimes in the first stage as well, I have one brush just for softening edges. So that is my softening brush. It's just got pure water on. I'll have this around in case I need it a bit drier. So then I shall start to do some of this. So you see how you can just start to get some gorgeous colours going. Again, I'm making it fairly transparent, so softening that off. See how you soften an edge? And I will soften down here as well.
That's with the clear brush, is it?
Yeah, that's just water on there.
Right.
So it's just to get your, and here I want an edge like that. So this stage I'm a little bit more careful, just a little. Yeah, and then there's a really strong dark there, so crimson, I'm going to add a bit of burnt sienna to that. See if that makes it dark enough. If not, it'll have to have a bit of Prussian blue with it. Where am I? It's this one I'm doing. So this is the centre of the flower, so you want to see that. I've got some little dots up here. So you see, you can start to be a bit more careful with your painting once you get to this stage. But it's really good to start off very loose like that, because you get a feel for the tones and also you get things blending. Because it's very tempting just to paint every section as you go, one bit at a time, one petal, one leaf and so on. And the trouble with that is you end up with something that doesn't connect. You know, you've got lots of different bits, but they don't all form part of a painting. So I like to start off like this, so that everything is connecting. And the colours, as you see, they blend into each other. Look, we've had a bit of a collapse with the Prussian blue here. See, it's gone right over that petal, but Prussian is a tricky one to get out, but if you do it while it's wet, you're more likely to be able to. So just wash that. So yeah, you need to sort of keep an eye on it while it's drying. So which one was, I was doing this one. So this one, yeah. Let me just soften up some of these. Just makes it a bit more realistic. That's very clean. Where are we? Oh, and nice bit of red on this one. So that is. So this is a mixture of crimson and cadmium. So you can't make the cadmium too thick because it is very opaque. So adding the crimson to it does really help. See how that suddenly gives you a bit more depth. But the important thing is when you get to this stage, don't fill everything. You know, leave some of your underlayer showing. And this has gone a bit blurry, so I'm going to make that a bit stronger. Don't forget to refill when your brush is running out. And this one there. So try and keep the brush strokes fairly loose. One at the bottom is quite red, so I'll put that in. Why not? Let's have a nice bit of red down here. Ooh, luscious. There's something so beautiful about colour. Right, I'll put a bit of burnt sienna on the stalk and then I think I'll stop and let you get on with it. So, a bit of burnt sienna on here. Oh, it's still got a bit of red on it, that's alright. And then I'll put a bit of Prussian blue on it. Because Prussian blue is my answer to most things, so I'm sorry you don't have it. Don't worry, I'm going to give you some. And you'll be scared. Quite a scary colour, but look what it does for you. That's a very heavy stalk. But there's going to be a lot of more heavy stuff back here, so I'll put a bit of that in just so that it doesn't make the stalk look so isolated. I'll put a bit more up at the top. I mean, once I get going with my Prussian blue, there's no stopping me. But I should have taken a picture of it before I did it. That's another good thing to do. And then you can see what you've actually done. And, it's quite fun. So a bit of red there, why not? Thing is, it's a painting and it's yours, and you can do what you want with it. So don't feel it's got to be an exact likeness of the photograph. To me, the photograph is just to get me started, and then I just have some fun with it. Take that off just so that's not quite so obvious. I mean, I'm painting it from the side, so I'm not really getting a proper look at it. And I'll probably go where you're standing and think, oh, what on earth have I done? But, you know, just gives you an idea of... Right, there we go. Thank you.